Hi everyone, it's Barry from Jerusalem. This week's Torah Parasha Va'era is the encounter between Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, and our teacher, and Paro, the king of Egypt. So what we have here, it says in the beginning of the Parsha, Hashem said to Moshe, "See, I've made you master, Elohim, under Paro." So this is an interesting name because Elohim is the name of Hashem. And Hashem is the creator of the world, but he has several names, but prior to this Parsha, this portion in the Torah, for example, in the last book of the 5 books of Moses, we see that Hashem comes to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And in this week's Parsha Va'era, he mentions this unique word called Elohim. We say it in a different way because we're talking about Hashem. We have to be modest when we're talking about Hashem. But Elohim is the God of judgment, really. But there's another implication with in this book that called Noam Elimelech, says that Elohim is that he made him as his, so to speak, substitution for what he wants to accomplish in the world. In other words, he now is he's a holy man, but he has to now do some work and get his hands a little dirty, and hopefully it doesn't affect him and his performance. But of course, he has God at his side, so how can his performance be perfected? He just has to have the confidence and the faith and the patience to get the job done. And this is what Hashem wants from us as Jews. We are put into certain trials sometimes, and we have to know how to deal with it and how to overcome it, and understand that the reason why you're being put into this trial is for your benefit. So he makes him master over Pharaoh. In other words, I got you covered. I got your back, Moshe. Now, these people were big magicians. They were big idol worshippers. They were king of magic. And so he says, what are they going to say to me? I'm going to tell them to let the people go. And, he says, take this rod. Now, this rod was the rod that Jacob, or Yaakov, later Israel, became. He crossed over the Jordan to come into the Eretz Canaan, the land of Canaan, which was eventually became Israel once the Jews conquered the land of Canaan. So that's this rod. He used the same rod for Paro, and he says, when you put the rod down in front of their snake, it will turn into a snake. So the magicians look and say, that's an easy trick. We can do that. No problem. Fine. But then once he put the snake down and it swallowed all the other snakes, they said, well, it's not so, it's a good trick, but it's not going to work. He says, now let my people go. And he says, no, 5 plagues, each one, they were stubborn, and each one the magicians were talking and this and that, but was only in the plague of lice, where there was such a minute amount that the Egyptian says, this is the finger of God. So that's why in this parsha, next week's parsha, he gave Paro the freedom of choice, but and he didn't have to harden his heart. Because anybody who would see the miracles that were created by these 10 plagues, and how everything changed, how Hashem was able to manipulate nature. Shimshon Raphael Hirsch talks about how Hashem is the master of the world, Adon Olam, and he's able to change all aspects of nature. Nature, he is created. He's created above and beyond nature. He's within it. But we have to understand that there is a judgment in the world when people are not acting properly, just like in nature. There's a whole harmony, and this is what's going on in the Jewish. He's creating this concept of din or judgment, gevura, which means that people in the world have to follow his lead. And his lead was the Jewish people. The Jewish people, through Moses, was to bring this concept of one God to the world, this God of justice. Tzedek Terdov is an expression that said that justice has to be put in the right place. And today everybody's walking around, it's my life, I do what I want, and there doesn't seem to be any plan for justice. But the Torah is trying to teach us something very interesting here. You're going to pay a price for everything you do if it's not within God's plan. And God's plan for the Jewish people is also his plan for the world. In other words, the world needs a sense of what's right and wrong. It's not all relative, And these teachers are teaching us what it is to focus on the right idea and the right values. So his name also appears also beyond time and space. So in other words, his name of Yud K Vav K, and then the other three names representing the past and representing the future, all with similar letters. This is the God who is master. So he's giving Moshe his permission to be master. And Moshe's big job is to free the Jews from exile. To be continued next week. Have a good Shabbos. Good Shabbat. Bye-bye.